So for a company that has employees leaving left and right, I want to ask our guests with Workzinga, what can they do to change company culture among their workforce and among their employers?
Excellent question, because once a company finds itself in that situation, okay, now what? Now what do you do? I'll back up just a moment and talk about how you start with culture, and that is you've got to decide what kind of company do you want to be, and then you've got to relentlessly hire for that culture. You have to make sure that during the recruiting and interviewing process, that whatever culture it is you're going for, it comes up in every question and it's constantly reinforced. Because if you hire for people who are not aligning with the kind of culture that you want, you'll go off the rails quick, because culture is not about core values on a wall. It's not about a mission statement that's printed and it sits in your lobby. It's about everyday interaction between the leadership and employees, between employees and each other, between employees and vendors. It's all about the relationship. So if you don't bring people in who align with your culture, you'll go right off the rails, and it'll go fast, and it's going to be hard to bring it back around. Now, as far as what do you do once you're in it? How do you kind of assess and then take a step back and say, okay, what's next? I know Dr. Rafael has some thoughts on that.
Right. So as you're saying, then beginning at hiring is the easiest and most efficacious way of ensuring good company culture, or a healthy company culture for all. Another thing that's really important after hiring, and as using the culture you already have, is engagement. So keep the engagement with everyone in your company one way or another. A company culture and the values of a company, the mission statement of a company, is not just decided in the boardroom. It's every single person's attitudes, beliefs, the way they behave with the customer, the way they are acting with each other. So engage with everyone. The second thing is listen to your people. Listen to the people that are working for you. Listen to what your colleagues are saying, what your leaders are saying. Listen around. What is the message that's being passing around? How are they satisfied? What are they saying? Do they feel safe enough to communicate in this environment? Are they gossiping behind everyone's back? So listen and connect with everyone. One of the last things is to act. If changes need to be made, don't just make these changes on a leadership level. You can begin activities and exercises of awareness and reflection with each individual, not just from the top down, but with every single person.
I think one of the messages that we've heard over and over as we've talked with people on this journey of creating this product is that when they're in a situation where the culture is bad, they feel like their voices are not being heard. They feel like either no one cares to ask them their opinion, or, and this is worse, asking their opinion and then doing nothing about what you hear. I think that is just a terrible dynamic to set up in a company, to send out engagement surveys and then not act on them, or not act on them publicly enough that people know you're interested in doing something. So to Dr. Rafael's point, it is all about engagement. If you want to change the direction, engage, ask people what they want, what type of situation are they looking for? Are they looking for different types of things, different types of interactions? Are they looking for relationships to change? Is the hierarchy in the organization just wrong for them? Whatever it may be. It could be very small things. It could be very big things. Sometimes you can't do anything about it. It's just part of your business and you can't change it. But there are other things that you probably can. So to her point, to Dr. Rafael's point, act on it, and act on it publicly. Show people that you value what they've said and that you're going to do something about it. Even if they're marginal, small improvements, little things make a big difference. When you ask someone, what would you want to see? and you're told, then what are you going to do? Now you know. So what will you do with that information? That is a consistent theme we hear from people when they talk about bad culture and bad fit. It's that they feel marginalized. They feel small and unheard. So I think the engagement and talking is critical. That's absolutely step one.
That was one of the things we even talked about at the panel, and that was accelerated by this pandemic, is that companies, to retain employees, began putting their learning and development first. These companies want to hear from their employees. What are you interested in? What can you offer you in terms of professional development, in terms of your own interests, and allow time and resources for their employees to put that in place.
Great tips. And we keep talking about culture, but have you guys seen companies do anything cool to try to help culture? And, you know, if you don't know what the culture is before you go somewhere, and you want to know before you sign your contract, how can people find out what the culture is like?
You know, that's a great question. And before Workzinga, I'd say it was going to be very difficult. But hey, you've got us now. So that's one thing. But another is you talk to people you know who work there, who know people who work there. And, you know, you've got some websites where you can learn about complaints and things like that. And that's typically going to be negative. I always think it's just worth talking to people, find out what they do, find out what the company offers. In my opinion, it's not a ping pong table. It's not having a beer keg. That's not culture. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that's not culture. Culture is about the engagement. So ask people, who talks to you on a daily basis? Does the CEO walk by you and not even look at you? That's a problem. When you engage with your leader, are you respected? Are your opinions valued? Great. If you're marginalized, like I said before, that's a problem. So ask people about, you know, who do you know that's worked there? Who do you know that does business with them? I mentioned before vendors. I think a vendor relationship is just as much about culture as anything else. And if you've got a bad reputation in the community with your vendors, I think that's a real problem, and that's a sign of a bad cultural fit for you as well. So find out who the customers are, find out who the vendors are, find out who works there now and who doesn't work there now, and why doesn't that person work there anymore? Because that could be very telling. But I think it's just all about asking.
Mm-hmm.
Really quickly, if you maybe love your local office, your local managers, but you have maybe an issue with the corporate side or a decision that was made, how do you go about handling that when there's kind of this divide?
Yeah, that's a terrific question too. And the answer may not sound great, but to some degree, it may be something you have to live with, because you simply cannot change everything. Should you absolutely pursue it? Yes, you should. But the reality of the situation is, and I'm not going to paint a false picture for people, companies operate with a lot of different goals and strategies in mind, and they can't cater to every single individual person's desire. That's not what culture is. Culture is not about me doing exactly what you want, but culture is about how well do we align. And if you are getting great guidance from your leader, you are fairly compensated, and you really like the work you do, that's a big part of your overall satisfaction. If there are...
All right, Dan, I'm so sorry. I have to cut you off. We have a hard break right here, but hold that thought, and we will be right back.